All right, my fellow agents, it is I, X7, your master of mirth and musical mayhem, as we're about to find out. I did think we might do the second season of Land of the Lost, but I decided that we should indeed visit the young ones. This was a British comedy series, show that ran for two series, not seasons, but series from November 9th of 1982 to June 19th of 1984 in England, and then in the UK. And then later on it was broadcast in 1985 on MTV. This says it was edited for content, but I don't think it really was. Maybe not in the first run, which I did record on the EP mode so I could get all 12 episodes. Didn't quite understand what seasons were or series were back then from England back in the day, especially in the 80s. But I found out when they just repeated the same 12 episodes. Still, they're great, and I love the show. So, having said all that, well, um, let's roll.
That's a great new version of the cover. That was brilliant. Shame about Cliff Richard. What about him? What?
So, right away, we're introduced to Rick and his rather overt fanaticism with Sir Cliff Richard, and Neil, who is the resident hippie. Rick fancies himself as an anarchist and a punk, but he's pretty much just a wanker, as everyone knows. So the show is on, and Neil is the resident cook. This is the first episode called Demolition. Neil's making some lentil casserole with Lux in it, and I believe that's a soap. And this is incredibly hot. He's played by Nigel Planer. Rick, of course, is the late Rick Mayall, who was in line to be Peeves the Poltergeist before at some point, he passed away so young. He's been gone for 11 years now, age 56. And the show was written by Ben Elton, Rick Mayall, and Lee Smyer, with additional material by Alexi Sale, who we'll get to. So let me talk about how I was introduced to not this episode. I think it might show up in the next week, but my friend Charles, ask him what the sign says. He will lie to you, but it never says X7. Came home and said we were on assignment together at the time, and came home and said, "Well, we've got to watch this show because I've heard it's just amazing and really out there." He was not wrong. I hadn't ever seen anything as chaotic and anarchic and outright belly gut laughing. I watch these again. I've seen the episodes numbers of times, many times, and I still laugh. My friend David loves this show. My friend Penny, if you heard me talk about her, Behind the Wall of Sleep, and I'm hoping she'll be listening because, it's just a funny show. And also, Damon Foster, when I met him and got to hang out with him up at a G Fest in 2000, maybe, he had on a Young Ones t-shirt. We talked more about that than any Godzilla and Godzilla accessory related material. We just, you know. So it's a great show. Anyway, so Demolition is the name of this episode. It's the first episode. Oh no, bad karma. Neil's pretty much the only accent, the only one I can truly imitate. Guys, he's very put upon because he's a doormat and he's a hippie. Rick fancies himself the people's poet, which I probably should have just kept that on there. How do you, but I don't want to run afoul of YouTube and their censors again. Neil's always threatening to kill himself. And Rick, again, you see the difference? He thinks he's, potty. And there's Mike, the cool person. Mike's the one who's the neatest, the most well kept, and probably the most on the ball because he's blackmailing the teachers to keep him in university. We get introduced to puppets and grossness because Rick kills them. And are these lentils South African? Because they're made with blood. I guess they're blood lentils. And now Vivian shows up. Vivian's name is Vivian Bastard. Uh, we don't ever know why he was named after a woman, but Bastard. Rick is just Rick, sometimes spelled with a silent P, as we will see. Neil, the hippie, Nigel Planer, is Neil Pye. His popularity went extended as well. He's still alive and still talks about Neil, especially when he plants the seed. Mike the cool person is right here. And now we see Vivian, very metal. I wish I could do his accent. And he is a medical student. He's horrible. They're all pretty darn horrible. I mean, Neil's such a doormat, he doesn't endear himself too much, although occasionally you get the awe from the audience. Vivian's got a leg there. He thinks Vivian's got a pet hamster named SPG, which is Special Patrol Group, which was something the British had in the 70s and 80s to quell riots and things, and he's named his hamster that. But, hello, Cliff Richard, bastard! Apparently he starves SPG, who eats all the lentils and blows up, and of course you can just imagine how he flew around there. There is a lot of flatulence jokes in here. Neil fails to kill himself, but the rope's too long. He never knew there was so much in it. Mike is played by Christopher Ryan, who would later on be in that unfathomably popular, absolutely fabulous, I believe as Edina Monsoon's ex-husband, Marshall Turtle. Yeah. Oh, he's even been in Doctor Who, in The Trial of a Time Lord, and a Sontaran general. He's about 4 feet tall. Anyway, there's Alexei Sayle playing the Bolovsky family, many of the Bolovsky family. Jerzy, that's their landlord. Jeremy, because he's pretending to be Russian, but he's not really Russian, We have tenants' rights. Yeah, I know these episodes really well. I can kind of quote all of the areas. I say this a lot, too, about ABBA. They weren't really Swedish. And if you hear me say absolutely icebox, that's where this came from. So now Vivian says he's got a letter from the board that are going to demolish the house. And then we were introduced to musical acts there. 9 Below Zero singing 11 Past 11. And it's a rockin' tune. I believe most of these were performed live, but maybe not. But none of these bands were heard of in 1985. Maybe two of them. Yeah, two of them for sure. But who's heard of 9 Below Zero? But rockin' cool song. And the band, Rick's rocking out, and then Vivian's drinking something, but not the Lux. They burst into he's destroying the house because it's about to be demolished. Now here is the neighbors. Apparently they're from Russia. Neil's playing his guitar while sitting on the toilet. And of course, Rick needs to watch his cool, upcoming, hip, young show on BBC Two, I would assume, not BBC Six. Rick has to behave, nosing around, and it's horrible. And you need to get a college degree if you want to get off the dole. Well, by the time we get here, this guy's sniffing glue and says they want to be able to vote. They want to be able to drink beer. They can vote, I don't even remember, and have intercourse with someone of the opposite sex. Then Rick just kicks there. They're wearing flared trousers, so how cool could they be? And that's a reminder that flared trousers are never cool. So Mike's going to charm the board. Neil's still having a bad day. And now the next day, Rick is going to crucify himself so they can't destroy the house. This is what David always says. There's no way you can hammer that last nail in because you've only got one free hand now. And he's still making some more lentil stew. Just once, I'd like for the food not to end up on the ground. And Rick's going to seduce her. There's Vivian's car with its leg attached to it. Go ahead, man. You'd be doing me a favor. I hope we don't crash. Now, there were a lot of people in here. Don French, Hugh Laurie, Stephen Fry, you just name it. They were probably on here. And I mean, Hugh Laurie, of all people, he's the one that, did the famous, told Rachel what a horrible person she was. And now the plane just crashes in there. There we go. And that's the end of that one. And we're going to go to oil. But let's stop here so I can do an introduction to the young ones.
Who are the young ones, anyway?
Well, that's rather a personal question, isn't it?
Rick?
Whenever anything explodes in this house, it's always plain Vivian.
Vivian?
Bad karma.
Neil?
I've just nailed my legs to the table.
And Mike, the young ones. Watch the comedy series from England every Sunday night at 11:30 Eastern, 8:30 Pacific on MTV.
Guys, one of Vivian's socks has escaped.
All right, Oil is episode 2 of series 1. And the boys show up. They're moving into a new house, which looks surprisingly exactly like their old house. Here we find out that both plants and statues can talk. These must be Bill's. Who's Bill? Vivian and Rick have a frank exchange of ideas over whose room they're having. Now, they did their own stunts, and they probably got whacked a couple times. Neil, your room is on fire. Oh, man. I love it when they caption their own stuff, so I don't have to. Mike is not nearly as cool as he pretends. He's throwing around women's undergarments. He's got a blow-up doll, which you do see in the opening credits. And then suddenly he finds somebody in the room. It's Buddy Holly. I like the split here. 60% McCartney, 40% me. And then Buddy falls down, breaks his neck, and dies. So no new music, and Rick has to get rid of him. Neil finds a genie in the lamp and has no idea what to do with it. Ends up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dozen pair of arms. And then Vivian kills the genie by pouring water into the pot. And you'll do anything to try to impress me, won't you, Neil? So they're having a discussion here. House charter. Because Mike looks like Mike's going to do his laundry, and that will come up later. Neil gets whacked, and they just yell at him for not making dinner. So Rick decides to, and I don't know how he didn't incinerate himself, because that is a big old explosion, and that's Rick Mayall right there. So another non sequitur here. These guys waking up, but then they find out they're in a stuffy apartment, or are they? Rick comes down to the basement, or pardon me, Mike comes down to the basement. He's just asks him to keep an eye on his buddy. Yeah, it's not funny, but death isn't funny. Now they're watching the telly. Now, in England, I didn't realize you had to have licenses, and they went off the air. I remember that in the 80s, early 80s. We still went off the air here. Oh, yeah. Rick goes up to his room, but it's been turned into a roller disco. The bodyguard just crashes in. Mike, you bastard! Neil's painting his astrological horoscope, which leads me to believe that he could have been an artist. Well, he's a creative type. Apparently, he owes Mike £1.50, and he wants it back. And now they're going to have a meeting there because Vivian's discovered oil in the basement. Do you know what the difference between you and a couple of number 2s is, Neil? Nothing. I mean, it's just that. Okay, let's just listen to this little part right here because it's just funny.
El Presidente! traitor!
Missed both my legs! Shut up!
The sound effects are amazing. Now, this was shot in front of a studio audience or a live audience, so that just had to be. I mean, there have to be outtakes. It seems like I've seen it. There's a great documentary on YouTube about the making of the young ones, so I highly recommend looking that up. Viva el Presidente! I mean, this fits Viv right to a T. Don't say that about the Arabs, Mike. You'll get us in terrible trouble. He's not wrong. I mean, they had him. What part of the diplomat do you want to see? So now they're down digging for oil. Now, I thought this scene in one of the sets I'd rented was censored because Vivian starts headbanging that, and Neil sticks his pickaxe through him. It was bound to happen. Now the People's Revolution is about to begin. The transition shows up, and they're like, "We hate this. It's to show the passage of time." And here is not Alexei, but I don't remember what his name is, but his band is Peas That Talk. How awful is that? The music there, Radical Posture. And it's just a drummer, a keyboardist, and Alexei or Bolovsky, and he wants his 200 quid, and then Rick wants Neil to pay for it all, and he's singing Dr. Martin's Boots. Now this is my introduction to Doc Martens completely. So we didn't have those in Colorado. We were not hip in fossil bed, and that's the show. I mean, nothing happens. It's just time runs out, and Rick's like, "Oh, look at the time," and there's Vivian crashing around in the basement still with a pickaxe through his head. This is how it ends. It was a complete lie about the oil. Shouldn't lie like that there, Viv. All right, we got another promo here for you, so let's insert.
Good morning, everybody.
The #1 comedy series in England has become the #1 television scandal in America.
Truthfully, do I smell?
Yes.
The Young Ones, too irreverent for the networks, too rock and roll for public TV. The Young Ones can be seen on the only channel with the guts to show it, MTV.
When you, actually kill yourself with laxative pills.
The Young Ones, every Sunday night, 11:30 Eastern, 8:30 Pacific, on MTV.
Okay, our final episode today is boring. It's very, very boring. They might as well be listening to Genesis, except I get ahead of myself. So this is what happens. What goes on in the evening, at the nighttime? Paintings come to life. Wizards are abounding. Mice are playing cards or rats. A carrot is dancing with a squash, maybe. And there's the wizard. I don't know if that's supposed to be Gandalf or whoever. And Neil is just staring out, waiting for the dawn. And morning has broken. So we've got that going on, and I forgot to open up the hold, please. Guys, listen to us squabbling. We've never been like that. Yes, we have. So they decide to play Monopoly, and of course, Rick says the single most boring thing that anyone can say. Wouldn't it be great if this money was real? Which somebody says in every Monopoly game. Although not in the last game of Dinopoly that I played. Thank you, Lilith, for the wonderful game, even though it was kind of rigged for me. Sorry. There, hit Rick over the head with the bank. You're a spade. I always call him that. So the guys are bored, and they don't. Neil almost invades the subterranean lair of little people who are very bored because everything's exciting. Because they want to meet, and they want to meet somebody who's so ridiculously boring. So guess what Neil says. Now Billy Bolovsky shows up, and I think that should have been spelled with an I at the end. My humblest apologies. And just bores the pan. He's got a note, and the note says, "Keep Billy away from the goldfish bowl because he drinks the water." He's playing Dalek there. He calls him, and then he goes on. Talks. Goes into his real life. I don't know if Alexei might be Scottish because of the way he sounds. Oh, nope. English actor, author, stand up comedian. I need to get his book. He's 72 years old. Jeez. So he's 12 years. Yeah. Keep Billy away from the Goldfish Bowl. And then we see Hell. And they're making him listen to Barry Manilow. Not that Laura will hear this, but haha. And then they crank it up. I don't even know who's back there, but they get to talking about promotions. This guy's name is Orgo. The little one's name is Fatumch. And you have to summon them, like say it like 3 times, like Beetlejuice. Although this was, 5 years before Beetlejuice. Rick doesn't want to sit on the rickety chair. That does not go well for him. And now they're watching a riot in progress, and they run through the house. Neil's going to make a meal. Vivian bashes Rick over the head. Off they go to the pub. And Madness is singing House of Fun. So there is, see, they had a hit by this time in 83 in the U.S. 2 hits. It Must Be Love and, the one that they play all the time about the house. Well, Our House. There you go. Which, if you hear something like One Step Beyond, you think, how did they get into that? But they made a lot of money that way, so I can't blame them. The boys constantly ignore things, and then we get here and we get this, which once again is one of the funnier exchanges.
Why not? Electricity. Everyone's maybe. Do any of you lot know Summer Holiday by Cliff Richard? Yeah. You hum it, I'll smash your face in. I'll go sit over there.
Good thinking, Rick. All right. So that was funny. Now they're bored. And then Rick summons the waitress by being the most obnoxious. At least he didn't snap his fingers at her.
Terrible too. Waiter! Waiter!
See? But we find out, guess who that is? That's actually Vivian's mother, which it leads to another pretty funny exchange with all of them. So it's just, we don't know. I guess if her last name must be Bastard, right? That's because his last name is Bastard, but I don't even think we know. They just call her Mrs. Vivian all the time.
I do wish you wouldn't ask me that. You know I've absolutely no idea who he is.
That's how Dad was doing.
Wow, Vivian, you never told us your love was a bartender.
Well, she was a shoplifter when I knew her.
She doesn't look strong enough.
All right. Let's see. Then they get introduced.
Tell me, Mrs. Vivian, why did you give him a girl's name?
Now, dear, why don't you come over here and tell me what you've been doing for the last 10 years?
Okay, Mum.
Not you. Zipface. Him.
So she grabs Mike. So while they're out, we get the Goldilocks shows up, and Rick yells as they're leaving, asks, have you finished telling the old bat about your herpes? And apparently this scene with the 2 officers being incredibly stupid got them in a lot of trouble, because how dare they speak ill of officers, right? Yeah. Police IQ shocker. So, and then Rick accidentally summons Fatumsh, who's determined to get 3 souls so he can get a promotion. There's a horrible farty smell in here. Was it you, Neil? I don't think so. He zaps Neil with some electricity, sticks a skewer through his head, and Neil's going to go get the paper so they can go see a movie. And they come back. But unfortunately, that guy gets taken to hell, and the Bobby gets a new car. And so off they go. There's no local papers at the local pub. Well, they must not be from around here. And now we're done. We're right there at the end. And of course, things are happening. There's the 3 bears, I believe, are down there. Yep, there they are. And then we get right into the theme song. And of course we see, I'm trying to get over here. And there's a flying saucer and Neil is oblivious to. I think that's the whole theme of the entire show. Let's quiet that down. But that is our episode. Those are our 3 episodes. There's only 12 episodes. We'll be done in a month, 3 each. And I think that's a lovely time frame. So now, having said all that, this is our episode this is the theme song. Actually, I probably should just play this one, right? All right. So, my fellow agents, this is X7. And until our next assignment tomorrow, which will be an animated musical of sorts for our Musical Friday, I'm signing off and phasing out.